Hi guys, and welcome back to yet another video. This time I thought I would go back to part 2 of my Game of Thrones theories. What the heck is that? Because I kind of got the first one out of the way and then I thought, oh, there's actually, I could make this into 3 parts. So the first part is kind of parentage mixed with Maggie the Frog. This time it's going to be about Daenerys and all of the prophecies that are made concerning her. And then part 3 will be all about the Pink Letter and potentially about Jojen paste. Wink if you know what I'm referring to there. But anyway, without any further ado, let's get on to the theories concerning Daenerys, because out of any character, she by far has the most prophecies made about her, or what she perceives. She's basically given a lot of prophecies. So, first prophecy, we are going to refer back to the prophecies that Mirri Maz Duur makes after she performs the blood magic ritual to save Khal Drogo, which, as we've learnt from this show, blood magic is extremely dangerous and you can't trust a Miyagi, which Mirri was. So what Mirri says specifically to Daenerys is when the sun rises in the west and sets in the east, when the great sea dries up and the mountains move in the wind like trees, then he will come back, in reference to Khal Drogo. So, in a strange way, one could interpret that this has actually happened. I'll explain after I take a sip of water because my throat is killing me. Okay, so if we don't take this in the literal kind of sense that it's meant, like pretty much he's never going to come back because the sun is never going to rise in the west and set in the east. It's just never going to happen. And these things have happened. So if we go in a more metaphorical sense, in A Dance with Dragons, we are introduced, well, Daenerys is introduced to Quentyn Martell, who is the eldest son of Doran Martell. And what, I ask you, what is the sigil for House Martell? If you guessed a son, you would be right. So, technically, the sun has risen. He was born, he was raised in the west, and he has now travelled all the way to the east to then be incinerated in the fighting pits. Hashtag awkward. So technically, the sun has risen in the west and set in the east. You see where I'm going with this? Once Daenerys has flown on Drogo away from the fighting pit, I can't quite remember how this happens, but she's informed that the Dothraki Sea has dried up due to a drought. So, when the Great Sea dries up, because the Dothraki Sea is an expanse of land, if I remember correctly, it's dried up, there is a drought. And what happens after these two factors have happened? Daenerys starts having uterine bleeding. Now, this is where I have a bit of a problem with the specifics of the prophecy, because Mirri Maz Duur says that only then will her womb quicken and she will bear a living child. It never says anything about her not being able to get pregnant, she just can't carry the baby to full term. Or at least that's what I kind of get from it. So, I mean, I don't know. This uterine bleeding could be the first sign that Daenerys can bear living children again, because this is some form of menstruation. Or it could be a miscarriage, because if you think back to Daenerys' final chapter in A Dance with Dragons, she seems to have some symptoms of the bloody flux. So Daenerys might be getting a bit ill, her body might be starting to shut down. Well, I mean, I don't think anything's really going to become of that. But it could just be a miscarriage, or it could be the sign that she's able to bear children again. And after she has her uterine bleeding, what should emerge but the Khalessi of, is it Jago? I think it's Carl Jago. Who shall we think of who this could be a certain rebirth of? Could this be a kind of rebirth for Khal Drogo? Think about it. Think about it. Because this kind of leads to, well, it's supported by Quaith's prophecy that to go forward you must first go back. For Daenerys to be able to move on, she must first go back to where she began. She must encounter the Dothraki once again and potentially marry Khal Drogo to win the support of the Khalessi. But then again, she has dragons, so I think, you know, give her what she wants. Because I kind of don't want to be incinerated like Quentin Marcel. It sounds like it would suck pretty bad. That's what I'm trying to say. So, in respect to that prophecy, it might have happened kind of in a weird way, even though I don't know if it was meant to be literal or metaphorical. I don't know. It could just be a coincidence that all of this has happened. Now we move on to the prophecies that are made to Daenerys after Mirri Maz Duur in the House of the Undying. Now, these prophecies, I do think there is slight misdirection within them. Like, I don't think the wall of ice with a blue flower growing out of a crack is necessarily proof of Lyanna Stark being Jon Snow's mother. To me, I don't think that's the reason why she's shown it. I feel like it's more to do with the whole idea of war and peace. I think the flower is kind of nature coming through the protection of the man-made protection, well, the man-made / natural / potentially ice dragon protection of the realm. There is slight elements able to get through. I don't know, it might have something to do with more war and peace. I don't think it's anything to do with parentage. I think it's more, Daenerys, this is where you've got to go. Just like, Daenerys, come on, hop on your dragon, just get your ass to Westeros because we're getting tired of waiting. So, in the House of the Undying, she gets, along with the wall of ice with the flower, she has what seems to be a vision of the Red Wedding with Robb Stark with a direwolf's head on. It still hurts to think about what happened to Robb Stark. Yeah. So she's kind of had a vision of that, which means George R.R. Martin was already planning that during the second book. You sadistic bastard. But anyway, she gets this one vision, and she's told that she will be betrayed by blood. Well, betrayed by blood, betrayed for blood, betrayed for gold, and for love. Now, we know that the first betrayal for blood is Mirri Maz Duur, because she performs this blood magic ritual knowing full well that it will take the life of Rhaego, Daenerys' unborn child, and it won't bring Khal Drogo back. And she does this in revenge for the Dothraki pillaging her people. The second for gold is slightly more ambiguous, because there are several candidates who have betrayed Daenerys for gold. Jorah was sent to spy on Daenerys for gold. He was a spy, in essence, so he could be the betrayal for gold. You have Brown Ben Plum, who is one of Daenerys' most loyal, and he betrays her in a dance for dragons. And nobody expected him to betray her. But another candidate potentially is Daario Naharis, because he is a sellsword. So it would kind of make sense for him. I don't know, it might make sense for him to betray her more than it would for other people. Because it would seem like this betrayal is still yet to come. And I mean, Daario, he could be working with the Harpy, because he does keep buggering off for a long time, and he does like to throw his toys out of his pram. So, I mean, it's very ambiguous what is going on there. I'm going more towards probably Brown Ben. I think Jorah, his betrayal would have come before the betrayal for blood, so I don't think it's him. And Daario, it could be him, especially if you believe the theory that him and Euron Greyjoy are the same person. It could be something to do with that. And one for love, I don't have any potential candidates for that. It could be Daario. I don't know. Could be Barristan. It could be literally anyone. I don't know. Could even be Jon Snow. You know? Who knows? It could be anyone. Then the second part of this prophecy is that she will have 3 mounts. No, she won't have 3 mounts. She'll have 3 fires first. The first for life, the second for death, and the third for love. Now, the first could be suggested to be the funeral pyre that was lit for Khal Drogo, where Daenerys emerges as the mother of dragons, completely reborn. So I think that's probably the most likely candidate for the first fire. The second fire, I think potentially is the fire at the House of the Undying, where pretty much Drogon incinerates some of the warlocks. I think that is the fire for death. The fire for love, I don't know. This is kind of going more fan servicey, but it might have something to do with Jon Snow and his resurrection, his funeral pyre. I don't know, it might, for love, it could be something to do with having her dragons incinerate the White Walkers to protect her realm, like staying at the wall with her dragons to prevent White Walkers coming back out of love for her realm. I don't know, it is very ambiguous. And then we have her 3 mounts. We got there. One to love. No, not one to love. One to bed, one to dread, and one to love. I'm sensing a common theme here. So the one to bed, we could assume is Silver, who is her horse that Khal Drogo gives her on their wedding night. Which, yeah, that would work. The one to dread, I would assume is Drogon, as he kind of, when he takes her away from the fighting pit. I mean, he's kind of like the dread. He's still a baby, but he's a massive, big, black and red dragon. You know, he is probably going to be the one to dread. The third, the one to love, I don't know. Because the other two are animals, I'd be more likely to assume it would be another animal. And yet again, this is really fan servicey, and I don't even know if Jon Snow, or whatever he ends up becoming, will ever meet Daenerys. I will assume they would, but there's no guarantee that they would even like each other. But if they do end up falling in love, she might end up riding Ghost. I don't know. It's really fan servicey, but that could be a potential angle. I don't know. Moving on from the rule of threes, we get into the Mother of Dragon, Slayer of Lies. So at this point, you know, Mother of Dragons, it's pretty self-evident. You know, she's got 3 baby dragons. Oh, where are my dragons? Yeah, woo. So she's shown a man with a red sword who is blue-eyed and casts no shadow, which we could assume is Stannis, the fake Azor Ahai. So this kind of would lead more towards the suggestion that Daenerys is a component of Azor Ahai, that she's going to cast Stannis aside, even though, according to the pink letter, Stannis is dead, so that might be a bit difficult. So she's going to slay the lie of the fake Azor Ahai. Then she's shown a cloth dragon swaying on a pole amidst a cheering crowd, which, yet again, we could assume is Aegon, aka the young Griff, aka the Mama's dragon. Yet again, coming to Westeros and exposing the lie of the young Aegon, who was whisked away to Essos when he was a baby to prevent him being brained by the mountain. I'm guessing that will be the most likely candidate for being... It may even suggest that Aegon is not Illyrio's son, but probably a Blackfire pretender. Potentially. The last bit of the prophecy, though, is a bit weird, and I'm not sure exactly what to take from it. It says, a great stone beast taking wing, breathing shadow fire. Because the other two are human, yet again this leads me to think the third one will be human. And the only human that kind of fits this is Jon Connington. Even though he links too closely with young Griff, because he's the one that raised young Griff. But he is afflicted with grayscale after the ship that he is on with young Griff and Tyrion is attacked by the Stone Men. Pretty much he gets... On the TV show, Jorah gets what happens to Jon Connington. He gets afflicted with grayscale. So he would kind of make sense for the Great Stone Beast. And the fact that the Connington House sigil is a griffin. That could be kind of what it's hinting towards. But if we disregard it being a human, there is the potential it could be an ice dragon from the wall, which will cause the wall to fall down. Because ice dragons, well, I mean, I'm not an expert on the mythology behind them. But I believe that they don't breathe fire, they breathe ice, which would kind of shadow fire. I don't know. But then again, the whole shadow fire seems to hark back to ideas of Ashai, because Ashai's real name is Ashai Beneath the Shadow. I have no idea. I'm completely stumped. Let me know what you guys think. I have no idea. But let us move on to Azor Ahai. Now, as any of you that have read the books know, Rhaegar Targaryen was obsessed with the whole prophecy of the prince that was promised and the three heads of the dragon. He was very well educated on the prophecies, and he was young and carefree until he read about the prophecies, and then he just became very, very determined. So, to be honest, I think Azor Ahai and the prince that was promised are the same. The prince that was promised is the same three people that compose the dragon. And if you've seen my last video, you know who I think these three heads are. If you haven't watched that video, I'll recap for you now. I believe it is Jon Snow, Daenerys Targaryen, and Tyrion Lannister. I think they are the three heads of the dragon. I believe that Tyrion's real father is Aerys, Mad King Aerys, because even in his description, Tyrion is described as having one green eye and one very, very dark purple eye. Which kind of, if we were to look towards Jaime and Cersei being the children of Mad King Aerys, they don't have any characteristics that would seem anyway Targaryen. So I would suggest if any of the Lannister children are Targaryen, it would be Tyrion. I also think that Aerys may have got a little bit fiddly with Lyanna, and Rhaegar had to take Lyanna away to protect her, which I think that Jon Snow is yet again another bastard son of the Mad King. But then again, this still applies even if Jon Snow is R plus L equals J, because they all share Targaryen blood. They will form the three heads of the dragon. I think in combination they are all the princes that were... They are all the prince that was promised. They are all Azor Ahai. Because they have all made... Just bear with me here, because it's a bit of a stretch. But I will try and win you to my cause. So, one of the components of Azor Ahai states that born amidst salt and smoke. Now, although Daenerys was born on Dragonstone, she was born literally amidst salt and smoke. If you don't take this to be their literal birth, if you take this to be a period of rebirth, then they have all been reborn amidst salt and smoke. Now, obviously Dany, she was reborn after stepping off of the funeral pyre. So, I mean, if you're a funeral pyre, the tears and the fire, it makes sense. Jon, when he gets all stabbed up by Night's Watch, it said that steam rises from his wounds as his murderers cry salt tears. So is this confirmation for Jon Snow being resurrected, reborn as maybe Jon Targaryen or Jon Stark? I don't know. I have no knowledge of what happens next. So, and Tyrion is... You could argue that he is reborn after the Battle of Blackwater with the salt of the sea and the flame from the wildfire that had been put on Blackwater Bay. You could argue that. They don't all seem to fit with the whole dragons will follow kind of thing, apart from Daenerys, but we won't talk about that. Anyway, moving on, because I don't exactly have much more evidence for that. They all make blood sacrifices that the original Azor Ahai did. He killed his wife in order to get Lightbringer to become the famous sword it was. It had to be embellished with his wife's blood, and they have all indirectly or directly killed the people they love. Daenerys, she euthanises Khal Drogo after he becomes a vegetable. Jon's a bit more ambiguous. He distracts Ygritte, and while she's distracted, she gets shot by an arrow and dies. Tyrion is a little bit more clear-cut. He clearly strangles Shae with the hands chain. As if you haven't read the books and only watched the show, the hand of the king, he doesn't have like a little hand pin. It's loads of hands linked around in a chain. So Tyrion kills her with the hand chain. Which, I mean, thinking about it now, the Valonqar will wrap his hands. Might we be referring to their chain? Might the method of execution, the thing that dispatches Cersei, being strangled by the hand of the king's chain? Could happen. I'll let you have that one for free. You know, if it happens, I won't say I told you so. Well, maybe I will. It was just a little side thought. Probably won't happen, actually. Might do, though. Who knows? But that was all the prophecies I had regarding Daenerys Targaryen today. So I will be back next time, guys, with part 3, which is all to do with the northern storylines, including the Pink Letter and Trojan paste. Trojan paste. Sounds weird, but I will explain in the next episode. See you later, guys. Bye!